Well, Rovers, riddle me this. When is a bunk not only a bunk? My name's Alan Mulholland, and this is the story of how I built the Wave Rover 650. 3 years ago, I refitted a 40-year-old Contessa 26 and took her on an amazing 7,800 nautical mile ocean voyage. We crossed the Atlantic twice, but a knockdown on the second crossing and COVID-19 put an end to my solo circumnavigation. So now, I'm building a new boat, smaller, lighter, but more suited for a solo circumnavigation. The Wave Rover 650. Well, Rovers, in the last episode you saw me put the longitudinals in, the last of the longitudinals, and it was a pretty interesting job with the stringers, and there are a couple of other little things I accomplished as well. So this week I also have to put the major fillets all around them and get the glass on them. But then it's on to the tops of the bunks. So I'll be fitting the plywood on top of the bunks, but the top of the bunk, it does so much more on the Wave Rover 650 than just a place to sleep. It's, of course, the access points to the storage, and that's really important on Wave Rover because I'll be storing water under here and a few other places, and we'll be trying to determine the ballast, keeping the boat level, because on a small boat like the 650, it really does matter where you store things. And then the second part of the reason that these bunks are not just bunks is because they line up all of these ring frames and bulkheads, the lower portion of them, and lock them into place so that they become like really strong structural members. And then after it's in place and I've worked out hatches to get through to the storage, then I have to start building off of these bunks for the upper portion of the ring frames and the bulkheads. There's a lot to do, a lot of considerations. There'll be a lot of thinking in this episode as I try to work out the sizes necessary to access, the storage compartments, because I have water containers already and I'll have to make sure they work with those sizes. A lot to do, time to crack on. Well, step one is to make a template for the plywood bunk top. Now I'm using just a little bit of 1/4-inch door skin for this, and you've seen me do this many times in the past. If you're curious how it's done, I'll put a link in the top right-hand corner, but I'm using short pieces this time because of the curve of the hull, and it's easier to shape short pieces and then just glue them together. Okay, so I managed to get the template out without breaking it. That's good. And I'm just going to clamp it down. So I've made it flush down here with the end of the ply, but I could have done the same down on the other end. The bunk is essentially the length of a piece of ply minus about 1/2 inch, minus about a centimeter. So I'm getting pretty good use out of my ply. Remember, the rest of this sheet of ply went into the longitudinal just beside the bunk. Okay, so now we'll just trace our edge. And we'll get this edge too. All right, now we can remove our template. Okay, so we have our lines laid on this sheet of ply. It's a pretty substantial curve, so I'm going to use the jigsaw to execute that cut. Well, the bunks are in, or at least phase one of the bunks are in. Now, they're going to get glued, of course, down to the supports underneath, but there will be a fillet that will go all along the upper edge, all the way around, and that'll get glassed as well. And then I will make sure this edge comes down to the same height as here, and then that we'll get a layer of glass tape going over it as well. But I also have to start thinking now seriously about support or access ports for the bunk. And this would be an example of one of the water containers I'll want to get in here. So in either this compartment or the compartment behind me, I'll have two of these containers. I'll have two more forward in this area, and then I'll have 5 forward of the watertight bulkhead. So that brings me to, I believe, about 12 of these. So these are 10 liters or 2.5 gallons, and that should give me 120 liters. And 120 liters is at 2 liters a day, 60 days voyaging at the very least. So yeah, seriously, I need to think about the size of the openings without making the bunk top weak. So I'm going to sleep on that one. In the meantime, let's glue and fillet the longitudinal. Well, Rovers, I am just getting ready to glass the longitudinals in place. So the fillets are nice and hard. They look good. I gave them a sanding and a little bit of a wipe down, so we're ready in that respect. I just have to go and cut the glass, pre-cut it to the lengths I need. Normally, Mrs. Rover would be here to assist me during one of these big fiberglass jobs. She is away right now visiting her father, who just turned 90 years of age. Anyway, happy birthday, Peter, but Glenda, your presence is sorely missed. Time to crack on. Well, I'm all set. I have my fiberglass station set up. I have everything I will need other than the resin, which I have standing by just outside the boat. So the first job is to wet out the area that the glass will be going on, which I've indicated with this line, and I know it'll be 3 inches out. All right, time to crack on. I'd like to take a moment to honor the Wave Rover benefactors. So what is a benefactor? Well, these folks have made a contribution of $100 US or more to the project, and their names will be affixed to a bulkhead inside Wave Rover and will be traveling with me on our circumnavigation. Now, these donations truly are much appreciated. Well, Rovers, I think that went pretty well. We managed to get the fillets in place. We managed to fit the bunk tops. We also managed to get the fiberglass in place. And when I did the fiberglass, I also put peel ply on it because this area between the 2 longitudinal bulkheads right here, the sides of the bunk, this is a potential wet area. For example, maybe it's, I have my wet weather gear on, I come in through the hatch, this is the area that I land in, so some water will get here. And because of that, I want to make sure that it's a nice smooth surface in the bilge area here, because if you just have fiberglass weave, it'll eventually get filled with dirt and also then potential mold and hard to clean. So nice smooth surface, nicely painted, and I should be able to avoid all that. Now, look what arrived in the mail. I received 3 of these in the mail. I had ordered them up a while ago. It took a while for them to get here. What are they? Well, they're inspection hatches. They're a good size. And where will I be using them? Well, you'll have to tune in to the next video to see that. Now, as always, Rovers, thanks for watching. Well, I'd like to welcome on board our newest patron, Nigel Gumley. Now, if you'd like to know more about Wave Rover's patron page and benefactors bulkhead, I have links to both those pages in the video description. Now, another way to help Wave Rover, and it doesn't cost you a dime, is by sharing our content on your social media. So now, as always, Rovers, thanks for watching. Give us one more. Brilliant.